Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 1266. Light. For a demigod beyonder, they experienced a qualitative change due to their powerful souls. Even in death, their psyche could persist for some time. Unless this was circumvented due to an enemy deliberately destroying it, a high-sequence beyonder, who continued having a strong desire or unresolved matters during their state of death, could have their remnant will last longer. As such, he could slowly assimilate the surrounding areas, allowing it to mix with the spirit world, and even the underworld, so as to turn it into an evil spirit. Therefore, although Colin Iliad had stopped breathing, he was still able to hear Derek's cry while sitting at the top of the ancient god's staircase in tattered silver armor. He turned his head to look at the underage demigod before smiling. Compared to the elders of the past, it's a form of luck for Lovia and myself to die here. Upon hearing this, Derek gaped his mouth, wanting to say something, but felt something pressing down on his heart, blocking his throat. Not far away, Klein raised the Staff of the Stars and attempted to use Will Septons, reboot, to save Colin Iliad. However, he failed several times in a row. Even the successful attempt didn't have the ability to reverse everything. The effects were clearly inferior to the originals, and it involved a uniqueness. Amon's true body had descended. He's already dead, so he can't even be turned into a marionette. He can only consider turning into an evil spirit, but there's almost no evil spirit that can maintain their humanity. Even Dark Angel Sasser failed to do so. The only exception is the Red Angel Medici trio. But that was only after they left their territory and went to Bansi Harbor. This chief doesn't seem willing to take this route. To the residents of the City of Silver, becoming an evil spirit is undoubtedly a curse. Klein sighed and cast his gaze elsewhere to observe the giant king's palace that had its shadows recede. Colin Iliad examined Derek's face and sighed. When you return, you'll be a member of the 6-member council. I know. Relative to your age, this is a very heavy responsibility, but everyone in the City of Silver has to be prepared to shoulder everyone's fate. Derek nodded and said with a nasal voice, Yes, Your Excellency. Colin Iliad revealed an amiable smile. Don't be worried that they'll misunderstand this. I'll tell you a secret. Currently, in the City of Silver, only Wait and I know of it. When you get back, tell this to Wait immediately. He will understand that Lovia's and my death has nothing to do with you. Otherwise, you will not obtain this secret from me. Having said that, Colin Iliad looked up at Gehrman Sparrow and nodded gently. From today onwards, everyone in the City of Silver can freely change their faith to Mr. Fool. Derek wasn't excited at all. He nodded heavily, indicating that he understood. Colin Iliad immediately retracted his gaze. A layer of solemnity and bitterness appeared on his clearly exhausted face. That secret is related to the second god-level sealed artifact of our City of Silver. It's called Gift of the Land. Derek wiped his eyes with his arm and listened attentively to the chief's description. Colin Iliad sighed and continued. It's precisely because of this sealed artifact that black-faced grass can grow around the City of Silver, preventing us from completely sinking into the Dark Ages. Derek's pupils dilated as the sadness in his heart eased. He remembered very clearly that the textbooks mentioned the discovery of black-faced grass as the key turning point in the history of the City of Silver. He believed that if there was no such safe and harmless staple food, then the City of Silver would have long become a playground for monsters. At that instant, Derek thought of many things. He finally understood why the mushrooms that Mr. World had given had undergone a huge transformation in the City of Silver, one that was different from the original description. Colin Iliad's gaze swept across his face, and his voice suddenly turned deep. It's precisely because of this that we are burdened with the fate of being cursed. Only people who are killed by their immediate family wouldn't become a terrifying evil spirit. Cornucopia has a price. Derek's expression froze. Murdering his parents left a wound that could never heal in his heart. He had always blamed the corresponding curse on this land that had been forsaken by the gods. But now, the chief had told him the truth, which was unlike what he imagined. The curse gave them the food they relied on for survival. The grizzled and exhausted-looking Colin Iliad's eyes glazed over as he seemed to recall killing his father, mother, brother, sister, eldest son, youngest son, daughter, and eldest grandson. His voice became fleeting. Lovia once said that a dying person would not transform into an evil spirit after leaving the City of Silver. Back then, I didn't tell her that this was the truth. As the gift of the land's range is huge, most people who are about to die are unable to leave the corresponding region in time. This is a secret that only the chief can grasp. I tried my best exploring and fighting, hoping that future generations wouldn't have to suffer such pain. The chief of the City of Silver, who was clearly advanced in his years, slowly exhaled. Without giving Derek a chance to make a promise, he seemed to recall something as he said, "Also, you mustn't fully believe the situation of the Rose redemption that is recorded in that palace." Eh? Klein stopped scrutinizing his surroundings as he revealed a slightly lost expression. Colin Iliad added in a deep voice, "Earth Mother cannot be Giant Queen Omabella. Omabella has long died. Her corpse is in the City of Silver, and more precisely it's the gift of the land." This? When Klein heard this, his pupils dilated as a chill ran down his spine. The real Giant Queen had long died in the City of Silver, and became a sealed artifact. Then, who is the one currently masquerading as Earth Mother? In the kingdom that was covered in moonflowers and night vanilla, the sunset giant's sword struck the heavy, pitch-black sickle and froze in midair. In the darkness that had been destroyed by the intense battle of the gods, time seemed to come to a halt. Be it the giant wearing tattered armor who was bathing in the dusk, or the humanoid demonic wolf with 6 arms. They seemed to become a part of an oil painting. Everything stood on the spot, maintaining their previous posture. However, a dark brown wooden cane had stabbed through the back of the sunset giant, piercing through its heart as it frantically drained the life of the deity, dragging him down in an act of returning it to the land, returning to a mother's embrace. This dark brown wooden staff was held in the hands of the giant-like, voluptuous woman. It formed a deep autumn scene with the withered flowers, grass, and mushrooms. The sunset giant slowly turned his head and looked at the woman who was carrying the baby in one hand. He said in pain, "Th?" At this moment, the dress-wearing demonic wolf, with the head of a female human, let out a chuckle. The bird-shaped golden accessory in her hand flew out and accurately pierced through the gap of the sunset giant's visor. Then, she threw the crimson moon in her 2 other hands at the voluptuous woman. In the next second, a portion of the sunset giant's body collapsed. An orange-red sunset pierced through the serene darkness and landed in the real world. Some landed on the battlefield, causing countless soldiers to die. Some crushed the mountains, creating a lake that made all living creatures age. Some fused with some lucky creatures, turning them into crazy and powerful monsters, while others enveloped the great twilight hall outside St. Millum. The solidified orange light was extinguished. In the Amantha mountain range, outside the Cathedral of Serenity, Abomination Sua and other mythical creatures, who were helping face Sak and Intis Angel's attack, seemed to sense something. The battle came to a halt. After the bloodshot eyes growing on the pitch-black tree rolled once, Abomination Sua immediately entered the void and escaped into the spirit world. In the outskirts of Backlund, in a small cathedral that no one paid attention to, a golden-bearded pious priest wearing a simple white robe opened his eyes. They revealed a childlike innocence and purity. He calmly took out a golden potion and opened the lid, pouring the liquid inside into his mouth. The war ended just like that. If Audrey hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she never would have believed that the war would end just like that. After the dark night swallowed the orange dusk and faded away by itself, the silver knight in front of her seemed to suffer a heavy mental blow. Even after recovering and composing himself, he didn't continue attacking his enemy. He fled in a rather sorry and perplexed state. Just like this silver knight, the angels and saints of the Face Sac and Intis allied forces fled one after another. As for the Beyonders that formed the backbone of the army, they collapsed in an uncontrollable manner. However, on Lone's side, the demigods, low and mid-sequence beyonders, and ordinary soldiers didn't attempt to pursue them. This was because they were equally confused, perplexed, and puzzled. Audrey walked back into the city and saw the surviving Backland residents coming out of their houses, shelters, or hiding spots, one after another. They stared blankly at the scene which resembled a primeval forest. They didn't cheer, shout, or vent their emotions. Their expressions were numb, and their eyes were vacant. They didn't know how and why the disaster had suddenly ended. There was no lack of people who had once been saved by the Charity Foundation. Many of them looked familiar to Audrey, but their condition wasn't much different from when those who queued up to collect food. Audrey silently observed this scene before returning to Empress Borough and back to her villa. She saw her father, mother, elder brother, butler, servants looking out of the window in confusion, just like the citizens on the street. For some reason, a sentence suddenly flashed across Audrey's mind: dying, he knew not his executor; surviving, he knew not the circumstances. An orange dusk calmed the lightning storm that blazed with frequent bolts of lightning. It sank into the dark, blue sea with an indiscernible bottom, nearly swallowing the dawn with it. Queen Mystic had used her other Grade 0 sealed artifact in time, allowing the ship to avoid a terrifying disaster. She frowned slightly as if she had sensed something. However, her expression eased up immediately, allowing the Dawn to continue moving forward on an unsafe sea route. It was to engage in all kinds of dangerous battles with strong winds, huge waves, lightning, and sea monsters. In the dark environment, Bernadette's gaze seemed to penetrate through many obstacles, allowing her to see the light that she was chasing after. No matter how many obstacles she faced, she would not stop her approach. On the staircase in the giant king's residence, which was covered in orange light. After telling Derek the secret, Colin Iliad said to Derek, "Go. Open that door. I want to see what the sunlight outside is like." "Yes." The rims of Derek's eyes reddened once again. He pursed his lips tightly and stood up. He put down the hammer in his hand, and under the encouraging gaze of Klein, he steadily circled around the iron-black throne and arrived in front of the grayish-blue door which depicted the sunset. Derek stared at it for a second, bent down, stretched out his hands, and pressed them against the sides of the door. Then, he strained his muscles and pushed hard. At that moment, he seemed to see his parents, his deceased teammates, like Joshua and Antiona, Lovia in a purple-patterned black robe, and the grizzled Colin Iliad. They stood beside him and pressed their hands against the door, pushing the grayish-blue door with him. Beads of water streamed down Derek's face as a heavy creaking sound echoed in his ears. A crack appeared, letting golden sunlight flood in. The gap grew bigger and bigger, and a golden sea gradually appeared in Derek's eyes, presenting itself in front of Colin Iliad's eyes. Upon seeing this scene, the corners of Colin Iliad's lips twitched slightly as he bathed in the warm sunlight. The corners of his lips pulled up slightly as he revealed a faint smile and a faint yearning, his body evaporating, bit by bit. Light was the meaning to everything. End of the 6th volume, LIGHTSEEKER.